Welcome to the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and also the CEO and founder of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Hayat Amin, the founder of Beyond Elevation. Hayat, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Hayat, kick us off. Who is Hayat and what do Beyond Elevation do?
So 30 seconds on me, 3 exits, 3 times fastest growing company in the UK and Europe, around 9 or 8 failures as well. For the last 20 years, I've sort of gained this unfair advantage of these skill set that I've gained from failing and succeeding. And what I decided to do is I've initially realized that there was a massive gap in the market where people didn't need full-time employees or full-time executives. And that led to creating Beyond Elevation. At Beyond Elevation, we help any SMEs, especially tech companies, to find executive leaders, but on a fractional basis, especially as AI agents take over most of the menial tasks. We believe that any company can now tap into high-grade executive leadership and strategy.
And so 3 exits, you mentioned there, you had one of the fastest growing companies in the UK as well, or was it the fastest?
So those 3 of them, one of them was the second fastest, the other one was 46th, and the last one was 97th.
In which order was it? So which one was second, which one was 97, which one was 46?
First one was the second, then 97th, and then 46th. 3 separate companies.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. So just to start off, why do you think that first business was to scale so much quicker than the other 2?
I think it came down to the macro market changing. It was COVID, and we're part of a business that provided health kits for providing blood tests at home. And it just happened to be the market was speaking to us and we obliged. So more of macro market trends than anything else. The other ones were quite systematic growth.
Okay, amazing. So before we get into some questions, what was, when you obviously realized the gap in the market when it comes to Beyond Elevation, what was the main mission you had for the company? And how do you differentiate yourself to other financial consultancy businesses?
So the difference is that I am a CFO myself, and as a CFO, we help other companies get CFOs on a fractional basis. So that gives me the sort of advantage to understand not what a company needs, requires currently, but what they will require going forward. We're also pretty much modern CFOs, which means we do everything. We do go-to-market, to sales intelligence, to providing operational advice and operational structure for companies, but as well as finance, because finance, as we know, has evolved within especially fast-moving companies. So I think that is definitely our sweet spot. And what was your first question again, Jacob?
No, I think you've answered it pretty quick. I think you've answered the question clearly there. Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the next question then. Having founded and exited 3 companies, you must have learned so many lessons, and you must have also had so many challenges along them companies as well. In short, Hayat, can you give me the top 3 biggest challenges that you had within them companies and lessons and how you overcame them?
I think the number one challenge would always be people. We had a massive problem. We were scaling around one of the companies I worked for. We were scaling in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa especially, and we found it quite difficult to grow remotely. That was a massive challenge. Motivation was at all-time low. So what we figured out the whole approach of a hierarchical based system where your manager sits down with you and does your review and speaks to you on a quarterly basis. We found that was not working anymore. So we changed that to a more P2P holistic based review system where employees reviewed each other. And just by doing that and listening to feedback of the employees, listening to feedback of the people who actually get the work done from a ground level, changed the whole perspective on how I see running companies. So people problems are probably the most important problems. If you have the people, if you have the staff aligned and towards the vision, most things internally anyways, or the company faces will be rectified. Other problems that I've faced, I mean, there's so many, especially if you work in a scale up industry. There's so many problems, external and internal. But I would say cash has always been a problem for growing companies. But the secret for me wasn't, I know you've not asked for a solution, but I'm going to give it to you anyways for each of those problems.
Amazing.
Cash constraints and issues with cash wasn't solved by spending less cash. And that might be quite controversial to what other CFOs, especially traditional CFOs, would think. But my solution was that we have to get better at impact spending, because you cannot really grow without spending. You have to put your money and energy towards a segment, a product, or a market, or in order to grow. So the solution that we came up with was we would be very much driven by ROI. Every single penny even if it's a subscription to Zoom or paying millions to a supplier or contractor or the staff, we made sure they had a direct impact on revenue. So that was the solution. It was never cost cutting or efficiency. It was more about impact costing. And the third problems I would say that I face more would be probably coming up with a product that does way too good. And that's again, like, you want a product that's really good, but if it's really, really good, the problem is that you can do so many things with it. You have a solution that can work for the space industry, but it can also work for the agricultural industry. It can also work for the government. What happens is, it's more often than not, a lot of passionate entrepreneurs will come in with their solution and they will just get lost with so many ways of solving all these problems with just one product. So that means you get confused. You don't know which direction. There's no priority. And that is a massive, massive issue a lot of companies have. And probably if not done well, priority setting is not done well, then it could lead to failure.
I think you made a really, really good point there. And you definitely opened my eyes up. Is a lot of people are very quick to get subscriptions or free trials, and they forget to cancel the trial. So they're paying out subscriptions, but they don't actually look at what they're getting out of that subscription. And I think if you look at it the way you've just looked at it, I think your mindset completely changes. So for example, like a Zoom subscription could only, let's say it's £15 a month. But what are you actually doing on Zoom, and is that driving the business forward to actually get a positive ROI? I think that's a really good way of looking at it, and I've never really looked at it that way. So thanks for sharing that, Hayat. I appreciate that.
No worries. And also from a personal level, I if I want to grow, I have to do something. Like if I want to go to the gym and if I want to be in optimal physical condition, I have to give something. If I want to go to a course or go to university or go to a seminar in order to understand something or get better at something, I have to pay something, a ticket, a price, or put cash towards it. So I think, money is just a form of energy that in personal life works. You invest and it grows, but also for companies.
Yeah, amazing. And again, a good point about the gym. I think a lot of people are like, I want to feel better, I want to look better, but they're a bit reluctant to maybe spend an extra 10, 15, £20 a week on better quality food. They might have the normal, let's say, vacuumed beef mince instead of going for like the grass-fed beef mince.
Yeah.
And them 1% can make a massive difference.
Yeah, man.
But they're not willing to invest that.
100%. I know when I used to, struggle to get checks when I used to work in retail in London. I remember my friends who got £1,000 a month from their salary, but would spend 350 quid for a top-notch gym per month. That's 35% of their entire salary. And you would see, I'd be like, oh my God, why don't you go to Pure Gym or like Easy Gym where you spend 30 quid? But the reason is, now that guy's a natural bodybuilder, and he's at his most peak position physically that he can be in. That's what it is. When you spend that money, is focus as well. Money is energy. So focusing on the right place and putting that money on the table is quite important. And businesses are the same way. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I don't want to spend anything. I want to pay people less. I want to be completely risk adverse. I don't want to go to that country. I don't want to launch this product because that's too expensive. But it's all about that calculated risk. I'm sure that guy who spent £350 a month knew what he was doing. But yeah, I just think, I know a lot of people who will have 5K in the bank account, but will pay business class ticket to go to New York. And I didn't understand that at the start. I was like, it doesn't make any sense. You just want to show, you want to show off. It's just a one time one-off thing. You want to pay for a business class ticket. But if that person was in a different level than I was back then, which I didn't get. It's the journey. If you care about the journey, you invest in it. If you care about your business, you invest in it. And that's the way I see it. It's all connected for me. So that's why I think cost constraints and cutting costs is not the answer. The answer is, should we invest in this journey of business that we're having today?
Amazing. So with almost 2 decades within the finance sector, what would you say are some of the most common financial challenges that these SMEs have, and how do you, Beyond Elevation, help address them?
Yep. So we know that having a CFO, so here are some stats. 65% of SMEs want a financial leader to come in and help them do modeling, strategize, get more cash in, and have best-in-class finance system that you can offer. That completely changes everything. The stats are that if you have a fractional CFO, you are 2.2 times more likely to succeed. I mean, that is a crazy stat. There is a 75% increase in fundraise success if you have a fractional CFO or a CFO of any kind. There is cost optimization and impact costing, which I like to rephrase it and call it impact costing. There's like efficiency of 35% more, which means you're making 35% more than you're spending when you have a fractional CFO. Or a CFO. So we know that this is a clear value add that companies are having. These are public metrics available for anyone who wants to have a look. But the problem is that it's very expensive. If I was to work for a company, let's say a company with 50 employees, it will be very difficult for them to sustain and afford someone like me full time. But because of AI agents, because of the whole narrative of completely changing process and menial tasks, there is this opportunity where I believe SMEs can now tap into not just me, people better than me, within, let's say, I will say up to 75% less than paying full time. And that's where we come in. We come in to solve this problem and this gap of skills versus the cost. So you can spend 75% less, but also tap into people like myself or other executives, because they work with AI, they work with efficiency. You won't even feel the difference if they're full time or not. So that's where we come in. But just from another perspective, we also help executives, CMOs, CFOs, CPOs, and we help them change their career and transition from full-time to fractional. Because just in this, we're expecting, I think, 8 million jobs to be given, 8 million jobs that we're going to lose to AI in 2025. I think Bank of Singapore got rid of 80 something percent of their employees because they can automate every task. So not only automate, we know that AI is much more intelligent than that and can come back with changes and strategies. So the key isn't that we give up on everything and everyone becomes an AI master. That's not going to be an overnight thing. There will be a longer period of time where we all need to become consultants. Everyone becomes a consultant and everyone has 5 or 6 clients. And I have done it 10 years ago. And that changed my salary, fixed my salary, my freedom. I travel the world and I work for different companies. So I think us helping the current full-time C-suites is another great market where we can see this clearly with the help of AI. The next phase is fractional recruitment and fractional employment. Full-time roles will not exist anymore in the next 5 years. I can almost guarantee that.
Well, you've pretty much answered one of my next questions, but just to expand a little bit, where do you see the industry going over the next, let's say, 12 to 24 months in terms of the trends, in terms of how AI is going to take over? Just expand a little bit.
So to rephrase what I said earlier, I 100% believe that there will not be any full-time jobs anymore, which means that not that AI is going to take 100% of processes and 100% of human driven employment. But what will happen is we'll work alongside AI, which means if I am a full-time employee and I just want to stay with this one company forever, like my grandfather did, work for the same company for 50 years, that is not going to happen anymore because there will not be a need for that employee. So what does that mean? That means I have to get better at understanding how to work with AI. I have to understand how to brand myself. I have to completely embed that philosophy that I am a consultant now and nothing else. I work for different companies. And third, go out there and just create your own consulting business or work with Beyond Elevation, where we help you and handhold you through the entire process and also get you client and you become part of the C-suite roster that we have. But I completely see a hybrid working model where employees are only working fractionally because most of the stuff will be done by AI. And just from 5 years ago, I also didn't believe, like, I don't think the Amazons of the world will exist, just on a side note, because I think people will start doing business with people, which means that everyone has a potential to become a business themselves. So if I wanted t-shirts, let's say Jacob, you're making these cool t-shirts and you have a brand, just for sake of it, let's call it Jacob and Co. And I would be like, okay, I want these quality t-shirts, organic, cotton. I'm not going to go to Gap. I'm not going to go to Nike or go to Amazon. I'm going to go to Jacob and Co.'s Instagram and go to his link and buy it from him. So the creator economy will be on full flow. People will do business with people, and machinery and AI will be the back end. So in just generally, I feel the way we do business is going to change. And we have to adapt from thinking that we'll work for a company full time forever. This is the whole change is coming in one go, and it will be quicker than you think, much, much quicker than you think.
And I think AI's capabilities are just, no one knows what's going to happen. I think ChatGPT has just brought out a new image generator. And I think most graphic designers have to be careful because the capabilities of that, I've had a little play around with it, and I've made something which someone would probably charge £75 or Fiverr for within the space of 5 minutes. And I think in terms of like digital marketing and content creation, I think all of that industry is going to shift now. These new things are coming out. I mean, I know there's AI companies out there now who can literally understand how you're thinking, what you're saying, why you're saying it, just from the expressions of your face, where you are. And I just think it's quite scary. I think it's cool, but I also think it's scary of like how things are shifting so quickly and so differently as well.
It is scary, but I think what will change is AI can be this most 100,000 times more intelligent and can create all these great models and create all these creative elements to it, can strategize, can create new business ideas, and can create all these amazing films and visuals. But what will not change is the capability of a human being to disrupt things. That is why we call it disruption, because you can't teach an AI to disrupt. Yes, you can come up with new ideas, but disruption means something completely different. It's a human thing. And that's why I think people who think like that, hey, okay, I've worked for a company for 5 years now, full time. I pay 60%, 50% away to the government for tax. But is there another option? Can I disrupt my own way of working to now creating a limited company in the UK, having 5 clients, paying 20% corporation tax, and maybe create a business around it? Because I can see the disruption is that I have separated my full-time role into 5 different part-time roles, and I can use AI to completely make it efficient. So that mindset is going to be the one that lasts, that outdoes AI in itself, because you can't replicate a disruptive mindset. And human beings are disruptive. We make mistakes. That is also very, very important. AI is never going to make mistakes. And part of who we are as a human race is because we kept on making mistakes. I mean, my experience is I said 9 failures, and I say it with a lot of pride because that is what makes me who I am. So these things, I think, it's time to take risks. It's not time to get scared. Even if you have £500 or £200 in the bank account, I think it's time to buy something, do a course online that's free, and then or like understand AI, and time to take that risk, because those are the people who will survive for sure.
And what does the future look like for Beyond Elevation? What are some of the goals you've got for the company over the next 12 months?
So for us, it's quite clear. We have 2 objectives. One is to help SMEs get fractional C-suite that is permanent and works for them and works on deliverables and adds value, but at fraction of a cost. That's the whole idea. The second element is my personal sort of mission now is to help other executives who are doing full-time roles and who are afraid of what's going to happen to their industry. Finance first, because one of the top, I think number 2 industries in the world that's going to get completely wiped out by AI is accountancy and finance, because numericals, 1 and zeros, are very easy to replicate. I mean, it happened already 10 years ago. Now it's much more smarter. So my mission is to help executives transition from full-time mindset to a fractional mindset. And that comes from just embedding that culture with finding your voice, finding your brand, how to funnel, how to put yourself out there, and how to make sure people come back to you. So to create that system with them. And these are the 2 main focus for 2025 and beyond for us.
Amazing. And if people wanted to reach out, find out a little bit more, maybe have a conversation, where's the best place for them to do that?
beyondelevation.com, that's the website, but you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'll see my name, but it's just type in Hayat Amin and you should be able to find me, and just DM me. And also on Instagram, b_fractional. That's where you'll see a lot of posts from me and sort of useful ways of sort of making that transition to a fractional role. And hopefully that adds value to your life too.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. I appreciate your time. You've definitely shared some valuable insights, so thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.